Hunt Showdown has released their most controversial update/event probably in the history of Hunt Showdown, with a lot of people liking it and a lot of people hating it. So let's dive into the Murder Circus and find out why.
Ladies and gentlemen, young at heart though growing old, welcome to the Murder Circus!
So first, let's talk about what the update has added, and then we'll dive deeper into some of the more controversial aspects of Murder Circus. As with all Hunt Showdown events, this update introduces a new battle pass filled with new cosmetics to earn. Now, whether or not you like these cosmetics is of course subjective. If you're into the circus theme and clowns, chances are you'll enjoy these new skins. But the main thing that everyone talks about in this battle pass are two Post Malone themed skins. The first one is Disposed King, and the second one is Ringmaster. These celebrity inspired skins have sparked quite the debate in the community, but we'll get into that more later. The Murder Circus update also brings a host of new weapons to the Bayou, expanding your arsenal with some exciting and deadly options, like the Sparks Pistol Silencer, a quieter take on the classic Sparks pistol. The Crag Silencer, a stealthy addition to the Crag family. Chuko New, or I'm probably mispronouncing it to be honest, but it's a repeating crossbow that's both fast and deadly. The Maynard Silent Sniper, which is probably the quietest gun in the game. The 1865 Carbine Aperture, a versatile lever action with a disgusting sight on it. And last but not least, the Shredder, a deadly addition to the game that cost you pledge points to get. Each of these weapons brings something new to the table, especially if you're looking for a gun that's almost unheard. If you've been looking to mix up your loadout, this update has you covered. Next up, let's talk about traits. The Murder Circus update introduces several new traits that can significantly impact your playstyle. Some are tied to the trope system, previously known as packs, while others stand on their own. Here are the trope related traits. Shadow Crush allows you to deal damage to monsters using Dark Sight. This can eliminate most monsters except for bosses and meatheads, and can only be used once per monster. Blademancer lets you retrieve blades, arrows, and bolts using Dark Sight, and if you hit an enemy with your arrow or bolt, you can also retrieve it directly out of them, pulling it out of them and dealing damage. Blast Sense highlights loud noises and explosions in Dark Sight, and to be honest, it's probably the least useful trait out of the 6. And then next we have Corpse Seer. It grants 1 second of Dark Sight boost when looting a dead hunter. Pretty useful. Crack Shot reduces crosshair spread for pistols and rifles and decreases weapon sway when aiming down sights. Also pretty useful. And then next we have Poltergeist, which allows you to interact with the environment using Dark Sight. You can open doors, windows, make crows go off, make dogs go off. I mean, you can do things with it, but I gotta be honest, it's probably one of the more useless traits. On top of that, it's Poltergeist and then Blast Sense. So one trope, it has those two traits in it, and I gotta be honest, it's probably the least useful trope. These traits are purchased with pledge marks by pledging to one of the 3 tropes at a cart or carnival tent. You get the first trait for free. For example, pledging to the Trick Shooter trope grants you Blademancer, with Crack Shot being available for 3 points. But you can only pledge to one trope at a time. Once you've pledged, you're locked in. Even if you remove the traits later like I try to do and switch pledges, there's no switching allowed for that character after you commit to a certain trope. Now there is also a new standalone trait not tied to tropes. It's called Fast Fingers, which speeds up reloading for the Springfield and Sparks rifles by letting you hold 3 extra bullets between your fingers. Now let's talk about the main attraction of this update, the Murder Circus compound. This unique location spawns somewhere on the map and is packed with resources and challenges for those brave enough to enter. Inside the circus, you'll find a variety of useful items, including cash registers, traits, ammo boxes, health restoration medkit, toolboxes. However, most of these items come at a cost. To access them, you'll need pledge marks, so make sure not to go to the circus without any pledge marks. The standout item at the circus is the Shredder, a devastating weapon that costs 9 pledge marks to unlock. It's a price that was initially lower, it was like around 6, but it was increased following feedback, or balance adjustments. There is also a new mini boss at the Murder Circus, Ursa Mortis, which is a two-headed bear that prowls the circus tent, and it adds a extra layer of danger to the compound. Also, there is thorn traps on the ground that if you walk in, they will make you bleed, and while the bear may look intimidating, the bear isn't actually particularly difficult to kill, and if you have a bomb lance, you will actually one-shot the bear, so not that difficult to kill. But with that said, it's worth noting that defeating the bear doesn't grant you a bounty. However, the fight isn't without a reward, because upon death, Ursa Mortis, the bear, can drop a free trait. So it basically makes the bear like a meathead. The only difference being the bear can tackle you and scream at you. Honestly, if you're going to the circus, the biggest threat really isn't the bear or the zombies. It's traps on the ground, not the thorn traps I was talking about, but traps that other players place, because for some reason they like to play, everyone just seems to like to place a ton of traps on the circus. And on top of that, if you go to the circus, you're likely to run into other players trying to get stuff from the circus too, so you got to be on the lookout. Now that we've gone over everything the update has added, let's dive into why it sparked so much controversy. The first and probably second most heated debate around this update revolves around the addition of Post Malone. While he is just a skin, well, technically two skins, his inclusion has led to a fierce divide in the community. On one side, you have players arguing that introducing celebrities and crossovers like this undermines Hunt Showdown's carefully crafted aesthetic and gritty immersive theme. It's something that we've seen before though, most notably with the Ghostface crossover skin, which also stirred up quite a bit of a debate when it was first released. And I'm just going to give my thoughts on this. I think Ghostface was a weird crossover and didn't make much sense, and I can't say Post Malone makes really any more sense, but I actually don't mind Post Malone being in the game, and I think the look of his skins fit into the game just fine. But I even might be a little biased, as I personally like Post Malone, but on the other hand, I can see where this road can lead into ruining the aesthetic. Hunt Showdown just needs to be very careful with who they add and what crossovers they do, because this game has a very specific look, aesthetic, and theme. It's not like Fortnite that can just have everything thrown at it and it'll be fine. And Hunt, you got to be very careful. On top of that, Fortnite has a very different audience than Hunt Showdown. So what is okay in Fortnite and other games like Call of Duty is not going to be exactly okay in Hunt Showdown. The second and probably most heated argument is about the Shredder. It is so powerful. Well, actually, it used to be so powerful, and it could easily wipe teams in seconds with its saw blades and frag saw blades. Usually the frag saw blades. I don't know if I had it recorded, but when I first used the Shredder and I used the frag saw blades, I eliminated a trio team within about 3 seconds. It also used to cost like 6 pledge marks, but after a lot of hate and feedback, they changed it to 9 pledge marks, which means you have to spend all your pledge points to get it now. And on top of that, the frag blades have a smaller radius and smaller explosion, and they reduce the ammo count of the Shredder, so it's really not as powerful as it used to be. And I would even say that it's not even really worth getting now, but people are still getting it and people are still arguing over it. I personally think it was overpowered to start with, and now I don't think it's as bad, but with it costing 9 pledge points, it's kind of useless. No one really gets it anymore because it costs all your points, and you can't get anything else at the circus. I personally don't get it anymore, and I see the Shredder all the time. It just sits on the wall now and isn't really used that much. On top of that, the Shredder is getting removed at the end of the event, so it's not really the worst thing ever. But it is a weapon where you can spam saw blades that bounce off walls, and if you use the frag blades, they also bounce and explode. So you can just spam blades into a building or wherever someone is, and sometimes you just take out people with blades that hit a wall, bounced off, and hit someone else. But you do need to be a little careful, as you can hit yourself or teammates with it. But most of the time, honestly, using the saw blade doesn't require much skill because you can just spam it, and if you miss, it bounces off a wall and still has a chance to hit somebody. The main thing I feel like is it kind of ruins what Hunt is, and I think that's why a lot of people are hating on it also, is because Hunt was built around single shot weapons and like unconventional weapons. There wasn't very many weapons that were full auto, and just bringing another weapon that you basically can just spam kind of ruins Hunt's feel. And they keep doing this too. So fast fingers just adds to that. So they have fast fingers, levering, fanning, and then they're adding faster weapons, like weapons that shoot faster. It just kind of ruins how Hunt used to feel. And I'm sure there's this word that I'm trying to think of, but for some reason I can't, so that's how I'm going to say it. Next up on the list of controversies is the new trait Blademancer, and there's a whole lot of arguments and people hating on Blademancer. On the surface, it seems like a cool addition, letting you retrieve your arrows and your bolts from enemies using Darksight, but there's one feature that sparked a lot of debate. That is the feature of pulling the arrow or bolt out of an enemy hunter and it dealing damage. Now here's the issue. In most cases, this guarantees a one-hit kill, especially when paired with the Berserker trait, which doubles your melee damage. So pulling the arrow out or the bolt out always does more damage than your initial shot. Since the damage from pulling an arrow or bolt counts as melee damage, this, with a combination of Berserker, can be absolutely devastating, and they can't do anything about it. They can't counter it, because once they get hit and you pull it out, they're dead. They can't do nothing about it. Now, if they don't have Berserker and the melee damage is not doubled, sometimes they won't die when you pull the arrow or the bolt out of them using Darksight, because you hit them in like a lower leg or a hand or something. But most of the time, even if you have Berserker or not, pulling the arrow out of them will kill them. So basically, if you hit them, it'll guarantee you an insta-kill. For example, let's say you hit an enemy hunter in the arm or leg with a bow or the crossbow, and the initial shot only dealt like 25 to 50 damage. It's not enough to down them. But if you activate Darksight, look in their direction, it instantly pulls the bolt or arrow out and deals melee damage. The melee damage will then do more damage than your initial shot, and then if you have Berserker, it'll deal up to like 400 damage. You will have no chance to react, and you will have no chance to try and counter it. This mechanic has led to heated arguments in the community. Many players feel that Blademancer is overpowered when used with bows or crossbows, and some have called for the trait to be limited to tools. Others argue that it's fun and it's unique mechanic that adds depth to the game. And then there's a third group, which I kind of feel like I'm in a little bit. People who like it and hate it. They enjoy the possibilities it brings, but feels like it needs balancing to avoid ruining the experience, and if it's gonna stay, it does need some changes. So what do I think about Blademancer? Personally, I think it's a great trait and has potential to stay in the game after the event. However, I do believe it needs some adjustments, and here's my suggestion. When you pull an arrow or a bolt out of an enemy hunter, the damage dealt should be capped at 25 damage. This would prevent it from being more than lethal than the initial shot, which doesn't make much sense to me in the first place. Why would pulling it out deal more damage than the arrow getting stuck in the person? I guess somewhere in there you could argue about realism, but this is Hunt Showdown. We're talking about Hunt Showdown. We're not talking about real life here. But that small change could possibly balance the trait while keeping its unique functionality intact. Players would still have the ability to retrieve their projectiles and deal some extra damage, but it wouldn't feel unfair or overpowered, or at least as unfair as it would be. At the end of the day, Blademancer is one of those mechanics that divides the community, but with a little fine tuning and some balance changes, I think it could be a really good trait in Hunt Showdown. Now I want to take a moment in this next part to share what some other people in the community think about this event. I've asked people what they think about this new event / the Murder Circus, and I got more responses than I was expecting, so I probably can't put them all in this video, but this is what they said. Feel free to pause during any of these comments. I'm going to be showing them, and we're going to be going kind of fast because we have quite a lot to go through. So overall, the community seems to be pretty torn, with a lot of people liking it and a lot of people hating it. Now I want to talk about my personal take on the Murder Circus event. I'll be honest, I actually like it. It's not a bad event by any means. The carnival theme is refreshing, change of pace, and the new Ursa Mortis mini boss, or the two-headed bear, adds some variety. But here's the thing, if we're being real, all of Hunt Showdown's events dating back to the very first one follow a pretty similar formula. You grind for event points, you unlock cosmetics, you destroy something, whatever it happens to be for the event's theme. Like this event, it's balloons, and you work through a battle pass, and it's starting to feel kind of stale. This one doesn't feel as stale as some of the previous events because it does have the Murder Circus in the new bear, but a lot of its previous events I've always have complained that they're really similar. You just go around doing some challenges, breaking some things to get event points, and just trying to complete the battle pass before the time runs out. Most of the time there's nothing really special to these events. This is probably the most special event the game has ever had. Hunt Showdown is such a unique game, and I'd like to see Crytek push the boundaries a bit more with their events, something that feels fresh and keeps us coming back for more than just cosmetics. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment below, tell me what you think of Hunt's new event and skins. Also, let me know what you think of this video, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button because you want to be subscribed, and I'll see you next time.
Get your gun, get your knife, lace your boots. We ain't fighting.